Hello and welcome to my channel, Morgan in Bookland. I am so excited to chat about my summer reading list. We're already a little bit into summer, and obviously I'm probably going to read more books than this, but these are the books I'm super excited about. Some of them are like a continuation of series that I've started, and I've been waiting for the books to come out. Some of them are books I've been waiting a while to read, and that just kind of feel like appropriate for summer, like a beach read for someone who loves fantasy. So I am so excited to share my list with you today, but let's dive into my summer reading list. So, to kick things off, because this is the one physical copy that I have, because I really like the cover, is The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee. I'm so worried on the camera. Okay, there we go. The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee. I love the cover. And yeah, I read, Holly Renee wrote a series, I think it's called A Kingdom of Stars and Shadows. Believe that's the first book, and those books also had really pretty covers. There were some version of the covers that had like humans on them, which I'm not a huge fan of. And then there's another version that had really cool artwork, very similar to this feel, but different colors. Had more like greens and teals. But I really enjoyed that. So that series, The Kingdom of Stars and Shadows, again, I don't know if that's what the series is called. I just know that's book one. It was, I describe it as From Blood and Ash, just much quicker. It's From Blood and Ash and something else. It's like a different plot line. It's a different plot. It's a little bit more. It's not vampire. Well, I don't know. You know what? That's exactly what it is. It's From Blood and Ash, but slightly different, different characters. It's also a significantly smaller book, and I feel like it gets angstier quicker. I feel like in From Blood and Ash, the characters are farther, the main characters aren't always together. It's like a huge section of the book where they're just not around each other, and then once Castile becomes the guard, it kind of changes a little bit. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that book. We're here to talk about this book. But anyway, I really enjoyed that book. I thought it was, considering From Blood and Ash is a very content heavy series, there's a lot to it. It is complex. Vampires, the god people, I don't even know all their names. It's complex, and I enjoyed reading Holly Renee's book, A Kingdom of Stars and Shadows, because it was much lighter and it was still very enjoyable. And I'm hoping that The Veiled Kingdom will be similar, which I also think makes it a good summer read. A little bit lighter, not as intense as some of the other fantasy books that I tend to read. So knowing that the first series was a little bit more easygoing, much more digestible, quicker payouts in terms of kind of what you're hoping to happen, I think that makes it a perfectly appropriate author to read for the summer, and I'm really excited about this one. The back of this kind of reads essentially the main female character, she's fleeing her father's cruelty, who he's like a wicked king, and she is kidnapped by technically the enemy, and they don't really know who she is just yet, and that's the premise. I don't know from the back of the book, but I'm assuming there's going to be magic involved, and I definitely think this is a similar like enemies to lovers type of situation, because she's kidnapped by the enemy kingdom, so clearly they are not. Oh my gosh, look, my nails match. Anyway, but long story short, I think this is going to be enjoyable, light reading for the summer, so let me know if you read this one as well. Okay, that's it for my physical copies. Let's move on to my iPad copies. I'm not going to show them here. I'll do my little hand thing. I'm going to pull up my list here. So next up on my list, I'll kind of go through the books that are coming out of series that I've read. So first up, that I'm I'll go in order. So Queen of Serpents and Shadows. This is book 4 in the Blood and Salt series. This has been out for a hot minute now, not long. I'm not super excited about it, but I'm gonna read it because it's the final book, and I enjoyed books 1 and 2. The series kind of dragged on, but since I'm so invested and I read the first 3 books, it's the Kingdom of Blood and Salt series. Since I read the first 3 books, I think I'm gonna go ahead and finish it. it just got to be kind of busy. It was slow a little bit and then kind of complicated. It was a little dark. It was interesting. The first book is about the Fae Prince who comes to a kingdom to have to collect a certain amount of people to essentially bring back, and no one knows what happens to those people when they go to the Fae Isle. And the theory is that they get fed to a monster, and you don't really know if that's true or not until you get into the books. And so that starts off the book. So by the time we're in book 4, the Fae King guy, general guy, whoever he is, has come to the human realm, collected the people, brought them back, gone through some stuff, and now we're kind of in the final part of the plot. So I am excited to finish this and see how everything ties up. We are also at a point where in the last book, some dragon there's the human realm is at war kind of, or with tension with a bunch of different people, and so the dragon-esque type of people and the humans are kind of coming to some sort of a truce in a way, but it's kind of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of situation. So I think that will make it interesting, and we're starting to get more characters. And I don't know if you know, I love a good side character plot. I love when there's not just one main plot, one main story. So it's starting to get that way a little bit. And so I am excited to read this one. Okay, next up on my list that I am super excited about because it's by a must-read author of mine, L.J. Andrews's The Mist Thief. This book comes out in just a couple days on June 30th, and I am so excited for it. I have read, I think, all of her other books so far, unless there's a series of something that she's written that I'm not aware of. This is a standalone, but it is technically book 3 in the Everking series, which is super popular right now. And the Everking series is so far it's a duology, and it kind of is. So it's book 3, but technically you can read it as a standalone. You don't need to read the Everking and the Everqueen in order to understand the Mist Thief. It just is going to help fill in some gaps, I think, and give more beef to the bones, I would say. So it's kind of a standalone. So you don't need to read the other ones, but I highly recommend it. L.J. Andrews she's so fun to read. I love the characters that she's written. She wrote a whole series called the Broken Kingdom series, which is 4 key stories that they interconnect. And so the last book it's so fun because it involves all of the main characters from the different books, and it was so fun to read. And then the Everking, Everqueen, I think, takes place about 10 years after that, and then the Mist Thief takes place like shortly after. But essentially the main character, his name is Jonas. He was featured in the Everking, Everqueen minorly. He's kind of like a playboy type of character, and in order to help his kingdom, he has agreed to marry this princess to kind of form an alliance, and she's not happy about it. He's not happy about it. They both have weird powers. I think she does something with like the mind, and he does something with mist. I mean, it's called The Mist Thief, so I think it has something to do with mist. But he was a fun side character to read in the first 2, so I'm really excited to see this story. And it is officially, while the Everking, Everqueen were 2 books, this is just going to be 1 book. And so it's going to be a one-and-done situation. She's still continuing to write more within this timeline, so I'm excited to see, because you could tell by the time the Everqueen was ending what the next story was going to be. So I'm excited once this one ends to see who the next book's going to be about. So I am excited for The Mist Thief coming out in just a few days. Okay, after that, the next book that I'm super excited about is A Promise of Lies. This is coming out in July. It is book 3 and the final book in the Kiss of Iron, which is actually ironically right here, the Kiss of Iron series. I have no idea if this is actually called, it is the Shadows of the Tenebrous Court. I call it the Kiss of Iron series. Also, this was book 1. These books are massive. And so typically I wouldn't choose a large book like this for a light summer beach read. Also why I read on the Kindle. I don't want to bring this around on the beach. But I'm going to read it because it is the conclusion to this trilogy, and I've really enjoyed it. If you watch some of my other videos or seen some things on Instagram, this book gives me Bridgerton vibes. It also has mystery vibes. It's got incredible witty banter. It's got realistically sized women, which I appreciate. It's not like, Barbie walking around. And I do appreciate that. I do appreciate when characters look different than what we keep reading in all these books, and so I appreciate a little bit. I mean, he does have black hair, and I think he has light eyes, which I'm fine with that. But Yeah, it is. It was a really good series. Book one and two kind of different. So book one takes place in the human like realm, and book two takes place in the Fae realm. But they both have this like high society. Technically, it's not the high society Regency era like Bridgerton is. It is more kings and like a little bit deeper back. Like think about if you ever saw the Queen Charlotte series on Netflix, more that time period, but still with like the court intrigue feel and like the courting and how all that goes. So it definitely has those vibes, and the third book is coming out and it's going to be the conclusion, so I'm really excited to read that, and that comes out in July. So we are going to put this big bab in the heat of summer. I'll be reading a massive book. Yay me. Okay, next up on my list of books that are coming out on August 31st, I'm so excited for this one, How to Outwit a Wizard. It sounds so cheesy, and they are, and sure it will be, but in the best way possible. So I read the first book. This is this author, Amy Boyles. This is the first, I read one book by her so far, and it was the first book in this series called How to Fake It with a Fae. And it was so fun to read. The banter was wonderful, and it is just such a total beach summer vibe type of read. It also has Bridgerton-esque feel, high society courting, and so the whole point is that there's going to be 7 books total, which is reminiscent of Bridgerton, because I think Bridgerton is 7. Bridgerton maybe 8. No, I think 1, 2. No, I think Bridgerton is 8 kids. So this is 7. There are 7 daughters in this witch clan, and the matriarch of the witch clan has died. And if the daughters in the bloodline don't marry and produce children, the magic slowly dies down, like it gets diluted. So in order to continue to have this powerful witch line, the daughters need to get married and then have children to be able to keep the power going, is how it works. So every book features one of the sisters. So there's 7 girls, and they basically are told they need to get married. So it's a whole courting thing. There's balls, there's dance cards. It's so fun. And so they are technically standalones, which is nice, but I do think it's recommended to kind of read them in order. This is only book 2 of 7, so it's not like there's a ton out, so you also have time to read How to Fake It with the Fae. But it is light, it is witty banter, it's very romantic. It is just, the first book was just so fun, and I definitely, like, she actually really made me laugh, which I feel like is hard to do in written form for me, and I really enjoyed that. And it wasn't the biggest book ever. It was definitely digestible, easy to get through. It's the perfect summer read. So, How to Outwit a Wizard, coming out August 31st, the very end of the summer. That will probably be like a Memorial Day, no, Labor Day type of book for me, so super excited about that one to kind of end the summer on that. Okay, so those are the books that except for the Veiled Kingdom, which I started with. Those are the books that I've already started. Oh, fun fact about the Veiled Kingdom, actually, that I wanted to mention. If I like this, book 2, I think it's called The Haunted Heir or The Hunted Heir. I don't know, haunted or hunted, they both kind of work. That comes out this summer. So I've been waiting on reading this because I do feel like it was a good for summer, but also because the second one does come out, and so I can read that if I like it. So just fun fact about that as well. Next up, so let's go to standalones that I want to give a try. I was in Barnes & Noble the other day, and I saw this, and it had the most ridiculous cover, and I was like, what is that? And it looks so fun, and I don't know much about it other than the, like, what people compare it to. It is called How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying, and it is billed as a Groundhog Day meets Guardians of the Galaxy. So yes and yes, I am in for both. Guardians of the Galaxy is my favorite Marvel like group of characters. Fun fact, I didn't work on the film, but I worked screenings of the film when it first came out, and I remember when I was told I had to work the screening from my office, I was like, I don't know, I feel like this is going to be cheesy, and then I was like so excited, like this is one of the greatest films ever. Anyway, I really love Guardians of the Galaxy, so I'm going to read this book. It's fantasy, and the Groundhog Day, I don't know if you've read it, if you've ever watched Groundhog Day, that is a very old movie. I can't remember the lead's name. He was also in Ghostbusters. He's such a big name. time. But the premise of Groundhog Day is this guy wakes up on Groundhog Day over and over and over again. And he's like, it's essentially, it's a time loop, and he's stuck in the day and he can't get out. And he's trying to figure out how to get out of this time loop and move on from Groundhog Day. And that tied with Guardians of the Galaxy just sounds so fun. It also reminded, so it's clearly a comedy, and it's essentially about this hero who has been fighting the Dark Lord for, I don't know for how long, but essentially I think it's a female. The main character, I think it's a female. I can't remember based off the back of the book. Keeps dying and losing, and so the main character decides, you know what, I'm just going to join the dark side because clearly I can't defeat it. So that is the premise of the book. It did give me, I can't remember, Edge of Tomorrow. Does that sound familiar? It's a Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt movie, but it had that Groundhog Day vibe where things kept repeating themselves, except it was action adventure, no comedy. So it also kind of reminded me of that. So I am really excited for this. Plus, it was just such a fun title. Like, how could I not read this? It is a standalone, and since it's billed as a comedy with things that I really enjoy, I think it's the perfect summer read. So let me know if you read that one. I will say on Goodreads, it doesn't get the best reviews. I think it has like a 3.8 ish, something like that. The biggest concern that I saw, it is a main female character. Yes, I remember, because the biggest concern I saw was that it clearly, you could tell that a man author wrote the female character. And so I'm curious to see what that means. But it just seems so fun. So I won't be super hypercritical on it, because I'm really hypercritical of it, because I'm really just there for the fun time. So that is How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying, something like that. Okay. Next up on my list, this book has been on my list for years. And the reason why I haven't read it is because it's not available on Kindle Unlimited. And it takes a lot for me to buy a book. I buy physical copies once I've read them and I know I like the book and I physically want them on my shelf. But to buy a book even on Kindle, to me, that's a gamble if I'm not going to like it, especially when I already paid for Kindle Unlimited and I can read so many books off of there. But I did join Libby, which is the library, the virtual library. And so I was able to get this through the library. And actually, it is on my Kindle now. But it is The Night Circus by, I think it's Erica Morgenstern. You can see it on here, so we'll let that go. But this book has been so intriguing to me for years, and I've learned a little bit more about it recently. And I have seen a lot of people who are bigger in like the Bookstagram community who do a lot of reviews. I haven't been the biggest fans of this, and the reason why is actually something that I love. Apparently, there's something like 15 points of view in this book, which I am all for. I love a multiple point of view book, especially when there's some sort of mystery-esque type of feel, which I get the feeling there kind of is in this book. But I love multiple points of view. I think it makes for a really, really enjoyable and unique reading experience, and I think it keeps it going faster. I will say it also looks fun because it is supposed to be dueling magicians, and I think there's definitely a love story. I don't know if it's between the dueling magicians or between other characters or what. I don't know if you've ever read Water for Elephants, but it also kind of gave me that vibe in terms. I don't know. That could be completely wrong. But essentially, The Night Circus, it is about a magical circus that appears out of nowhere. It's only open at night, and there's dueling magicians, 15 points of view. Only one magician can reign superior, something like that's on the back of the book, but it just looks so fun. It is a standalone. There's another book called The Starless Sea that the author wrote, but it's not, from what I can tell, it's not really tied to this, so this is technically considered a standalone. This book, I remember years ago when I was in high school, which is a long time ago, people talking about this book, maybe not quite high school, maybe it was college, but there is a National Writing Month. I feel like it's November, but I could be wrong, where the goal is to write like 30,000 words or something, but the goal is to write a book in a month, and this author did where I can't figure out if I'm pointing in the right way, so it's my thing. This author did it, and I think this is a refined version of what she did in the first month, but I think that is also super impressive, and so I'm excited to read this, and I've been wanting to read this for so many reasons, and since I finally have it on my Kindle, I'm going to be reading it, and I suggest you do as well, just so we can chat about it together. Okay, next on my list. Let's see. Okay, these are, I think I only have 2 left. Yes, I only have 2 left. Okay, Encyclopaedia Faeries. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I have seen this so many times on Instagram. I have seen so many beautiful versions of this book, covers of this book, the sprayed edges of this book, and it just looks so fun. And I was like, I need to know what that's about. And it looks like such a summer read. It's about a woman who is traveling to go write the first encyclopedia of Fae lore, and she's one with the fairies. It's also one that uses the word fairy instead of fae, so I think it has more of that quintessential fairy tale-esque feel, again, which I think is really fun for the summer. And she is going to this area where the fairies are to write the first encyclopedia, only to have a rival show up, and that's about as much as the back of the book says. Clearly there's some things going on. She can't figure out why he's there. Things take a turn, some interesting turns, but it just looks super fun. The second book is out as well, and then she's writing her third book, which is due out in 2025, but this book just looked so whimsical. It reminded me, when I was looking at the covers and the different versions of the covers, this one actually is my least favorite version of the covers. I was looking at all the different versions and reading about it. It reminded me of how I felt when I was reading the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber, which I have up there. It is just whimsical, gave me the feeling of bubblegum pink and like forests and happy animals just prancing around, and that's the vibe I get, and I just think that's going to be so fun. So that is on my list. I'm concerned I won't be able to read this summer because, again, this is a Libby situation, and right now it's like a 22-week hold, but I do know sometimes that can go much quicker if people release the hold, so I'm really hoping I can get it this summer because I just think it'd be so fun to read. But that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Faeries. The last one, which is the one I wanted to do more research on before doing this video, but I haven't read the book, so it's okay for me to be a little blind, essentially, is Assistant to the Villain. This is billed as Once Upon a Time meets The Office, and I am obsessed with both of those things. Once Upon a Time got a little cheesy, but I love fairy tale. If you know anything about me, I love fairy tale retellings. I think it's really fun to see the spins on classic fairy tales to me, and The Office is one of my all-time favorite shows. I reference The Office all the time. I'm sure on my Bookstagram I reference things of The Office. I just love that show, and so it looks so fun. But essentially, it's a villain looking for an assistant, and he finds one, and I think that she ends up kind of falling in love with him. I think that's all like on the back of the book, but it looks so darn fun. And I think the second book is coming out. I believe it's called Apprentice to the Villain, and that's coming out, I believe, next year. But it just looks like such a fun time. In the summer, I like to read lighter books, comedy, a little bit more of the whimsical fairy tale-esque feel, which is also one of the reasons why this makes my list, because it just looks like that fun romantasy rom-com type of situation. So I'm really excited to give this a try. This is another situation where it's like a 20-week wait on Libby, so fingers crossed I can get it sooner and actually read it this summer. If not, I may just cave and buy it. It's such a beautiful cover. Love that cover. But anywho, that is it. That is the list. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me. If you've read any of these, let me know, because I want to chat about them. Also, let me know what your summer list is, so in case I can add to mine, because I'm definitely reading more than just these books. I'm actually currently reading the Defy the Night series by Bridget Kemmerer. I love her writing. She also wrote the A Curse So Dark and Lonely series, which I think is called the Cursebreaker series, but I really enjoy her writing, and I'm really enjoying this. So I just started the second book, Defend the Dawn, and then I need to read the third book, Destroy the Day, before I'll probably jump right into the Mist King. I'll probably do that one first, since that one's coming out. Will probably be coming out right as I'm finishing those ones. Anyway, long story short, I've got reading to do. So thank you so much for hanging in there, and I will see you next time.